I'm saying to everyone that'll listen, look, 5 years from now, an AI will answer your phone. I guarantee it 100%. 5 years from now, a car is going to drive you around. I guarantee it 100%. So if I can see something out 5 years, then we've got a real capability to build a business into that moment, that we're there at an early stage, but not too early, and we're living in the future. So that's my number one piece of advice.
This is the Entrepreneurs United podcast with your hosts, John St. Pierre and Rich Hoffman.
Entrepreneurs, we got a special guest for you today from Charleston, South Carolina, Patrick Bryant. He's a serial entrepreneur, much like most of us, but today he's also the CEO and partner of Code Plus Trust. So Patrick, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely thrilled to be with you guys.
So Code Plus Trust. I understand that your company provides in-house CTO capabilities. People don't have to hire their own CTO in their businesses, and they're going to help you code and build software that you need. That part, I think I understand, if that's correct. But then you add trust on top of it. Where does this come in?
Yeah, the interesting thing about Code and Trust is this company we founded, a couple of partners that have all started other businesses. We understand software, we understand minimum viable products, we understand market fit. And our goal was to get coders that we could teach to think like entrepreneurs, and then differentiate by helping entrepreneurial companies launch in a very quick, smart, efficient way. And it also morphed into us helping some pretty large corporations do the same thing. What we didn't realize is that we were stumbling ourselves into a skunkworks role with a lot of larger corporations. So they'll come to us and say, we need a new app. It needs to do X. Sure, we already have a team in-house that can develop code. We have software designers, but we need the way you guys think like entrepreneurs to come to the table. And that's really the differentiating piece. So most of the time, Code Trust is coming to a client that is saying, I need to build this particular piece of software to enter this particular market, or to help my employees or customers or see data, whatever it might be. And then they rely on us to scope that out in a way that is very entrepreneurial. And many times they want us to build something that we describe as a $2 million pie. And we look at it and say, look, you don't need to build $2 million worth of software right now. Let us dig in, find what you really need to build, which might only be this third down here. And let's go build that, then get user feedback, then understand what the customer, the employees want, what's really going to make them efficient. And then in that case, we can start to build an incremental process with sprints that is very fast, very effective, very efficient. And then in the process, we have just become a really big AI focused company, because AI helps us develop faster. It helps our customers as we integrate it into their products. And so we've just been immensely focused on the growth in AI and the tools there in the last 12 months.
Patrick, what have you found is absent from the average coder that you stress entrepreneurial, what they do, and how do you stress that? So why is it important? How do you do that?
That's such a good question. We literally have lunch and learns and happy hours and functions that our coders are involved in. Number one, we all work together in Charleston, South Carolina. We don't offshore. We don't send code off to other places, because at the end of the day, we want to train and help our coders think like entrepreneurs, and then they're making decisions like entrepreneurs. And if we bring them a challenge, right, just like a home builder, if you were to bring a home builder challenge to someone, and I say, I'm going to put the closet over there, a very smart home builder is going to go, look, if you put the closet over there, the door is going to swing the wrong way. We got to rethink how that's going to happen. And they can see 2 or 3 factors down the road of how this is going to affect change in your software. And so that's our goal for them, is that we want to teach them in these happy hours and lunch and learns and in our dialogues every day at stand up, that we want them focused on how do we deploy this in a way that we're getting customer feedback? how do we understand the customer? A lot of times it's really funny. They say the customer is always right. We don't believe that. We don't think the customer is always right. Henry Ford famously said, if I would have built what my customer wanted, it would have been a faster horse. I think what we try to teach them is you're the one in charge. You're the one making the decision, but you need to sit in the customer's seat and provide them what they're ultimately going to want from a standpoint of the product and not exactly what the customer is asking for. So it's a delicate balance, because you don't want coders who are like, this is the way I want to build it, and we're just gonna build it the way I want to build it because I'm smart. No, that's not what we're saying. So it's somewhere between that spectrum of, listen to the customer. You got to think through what the problem is. What is the least number of clicks to get the end user through the process? What's the most elegant design? And then you got to pitch that back to the customer and get buy-in that does make sense, right? The home builder can't just move the closet because they feel like it. They got to go to the home builder and say, hey, look, I see a problem. The door is going to hit like this. Let's move the closet. Yes, we're all in. Let's move the closet.
Yeah.
So it's customer feedback, customer interaction, communication, but having foresight to understand how we might go through the development process.
So is the average coder an order taker, or is the average coder, they just chart a course on their own and follow through, and they don't pick their head up to see if it's working, or both? Or like, what's the unique part about your coders?
Totally good question. That is to the heart of the difference of our company, which is normally your average coder in the world is one of those two things. Either they're an order taker and they're just going to do what you said, which is what happens a lot in offshoring. I've seen it, gosh knows, 20 times. We have had a client that wanted us to develop software. We put together a package for them. They then took it offshore because it was cheaper. And then they bring the product back to us, and it is not at all what they wanted. They know that it's not good, but they're not sure why it's not. I joke that it's like you go to a restaurant and you have no menu and you just blindly describe to the waiter what you think you want. And the waiter goes back and gives it to the chef. Now, in this case, the chef is an egotistical, just do whatever they want type person. And they just whip up whatever they think makes the most sense off of that order, and they hand it back to you. It's not edible. It's not what you wanted. It doesn't make sense. None of this is good for the customer, but the customer didn't know, because we're designing software no one's ever designed before. We like to live on that edge of designing things that are new. And in doing so, there is no menu. You can't just say, oh, I want it to look like this, because there is no necessarily to compare it to. So that's really where most coders, especially offshore, they're going to do it cheap and they're going to do it fast, but they're going to order take. And if you don't have really specific orders and a real clear vision of what you want, you're going to meet failure. On the other hand, you might have a situation that you've got a coder that's quite brilliant, and you're going to give them a lot of data and they might be able to design it out. But now you could end up with that egotistical designing what they want, not what you want, which is where we try to strike that balance and say, look, we want to listen and we want to develop, and then we want to develop just enough to get feedback from the customers or the employees that are going to use it, so that we can begin to learn exactly what the next step is. So minimum viable product, market fit, and then developing the larger piece of software. So thinking like an entrepreneur in those stages, but taking it to the entire software development process.
Well, and you hit on the three-legged stool of sales, right? Do you want it cheap, fast, or high quality? Pick two. Because as soon as you pick two, you may be sacrificing the other one. And it sounds like among that, my guess is, well, I won't guess. I think
well, I'll tell you, we're more expensive. There's no doubt.
Is high quality. So where are you at on price and where are you at on speed?
Yeah, it's, speed, we move very quickly. Matter of fact, we don't trip a lot in the early stages. We succeed a lot on speed. And then of quality, of course, that's our number one marker. We feel like we always win that one. But if you compare our services to an offshore coder, yeah, we're going to be 5 times, 3 times more expensive. And that is the price of the piece we bring to the table. Having said that, though, with AI, there are so many times right now at this moment, and that's what I'd be pitching to any business owner that's listening, is that with what we're deploying in AI, I can save that business owner so much money in their costs of what they're doing that it doesn't matter how much we cost, right? Because I'm still going to build a tool that's going to eliminate cost inside of your business. So at the end, you're coming out ahead.
So Patrick, let's talk about that for a second. AI is certainly a massive topic. 4 years ago, when we started recording this podcast, AI wasn't even mentioned, right? Now we're talking about it every single week. And the one thing that I heard specifically in the coding world is every single coder should have an employee, and that employee is AI that's working for them. And so the fact that you're teaching your coders how to think entrepreneurially so they can actually prompt or inform the AI what they're trying to do and help them with the coding is genius. It makes a lot of sense. And now I understand the code plus trust brand of what you do. And so I love the fact that you're teaching people how to become entrepreneurs. And you're a serial entrepreneur yourself. I'd love to learn a little bit more about the Harbor Entrepreneurial Center that you're involved with. It seems like you have a lot of touch points, not only being an entrepreneur yourself, but with other entrepreneurs. And so not only do I want to hear about the Harbor Entrepreneurial Center, but how should entrepreneurs be thinking about AI for their businesses beyond just coding software?
We've released another company with products that are specifically AI-based products, things we've learned, things we've built, things that we've begin to tool and combine in order to help entrepreneurs. And that company is called Workforce Wave. We just launched it a few months ago. It's completely focused on giving small businesses tools they need to revolutionize their workforce with these AI tools. And to exactly what you said, we try to give AI tools to our coders because we realize that they're going to code faster. But we also, as they think like entrepreneurs, we want to teach them how to prompt the AI and make sure that they understand the code that's coming out of the AI, right? All of those things are important. You can't just get on a bulldozer, point it in a direction and get off and go home. That's the bulldozer's going to keep going. So you really do have to have a good mindset around how to use AI, how to prompt it, how to understand what it's outputting. Does that output now make sense? Yes. Okay, let's move forward and do some more things. But it's all a prompt review process. And in the case of Workforce Wave, we've got this voice agents product that is all about helping small business answer the phone. And we have spent a ton of time on getting the voice right, getting the knowledge base right, getting the script right, making sure that the experience is very positive. Of course, it can integrate with your calendar and book an appointment. It can transcribe the call and send that as an email. It can send text follow-ups. It's an agent. It does amazing things. But the key is that we spend a lot of time to really make that user experience something that a small business that doesn't know a lot about AI can integrate. Yeah, for us, it's all AI right now. It's like, how do we deploy AI in our companies to find efficiencies? And then as we do that, what efficiencies are we finding that we can then go offer to small businesses? And of course, making sure that user experience is high end, feels good. They don't need to know coding. They can give us their information. We can show them how to build these prompts and make it work for them.
Okay. So Workforce Wave, I just want to make sure I captured this correctly. What exactly, that's a new company that their purpose is to design tools for small business to maximize AI efficiencies in their business. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah. Workforcewave.com. And right now our main product is voice agents, but our goal is to expand that as we continue. We've already put on some customers. We'll land and expand with those customers, learning more and more about how we can give them these tools. But yeah, you nailed it. That's our vision, is how do we get inside of a small business and say, look, here's a tool. We know we can save you money. If you're spending money answering the phone right now with an employee, we can take that off your plate immediately and cut that sometimes by a factor of 10. I got a funeral home right now that's spending $7,500 a month on a call center to answer the calls after hours. And we're deploying this tool for them. It's going to cost them less than $600 a month. And it's going to be more knowledgeable, more capable of answering the phones in different languages. It can already speak Spanish and French and German. It is capable of scaling. Instead of when you place one phone call right now today, then it can scale to answer 30, 100 phone calls concurrently. So if you were to put an ad in the paper for your business and 100 people called on the same day, no busy signal, no going to voicemail, they're all getting an agent. And then on the day that no one calls in, no cost to the agent. So that to me is, I use it more in this conversation as an example to put into the heads of our small business entrepreneurial listeners to say, this is something you can deploy today. It will save you money. It will use AI. It will take jobs that are frustrating and not something that person needs to be working on and tool them into something that they only get the information that's actionable. They're now going to get an email saying there was a lead. They want our roofing services. This is their square footage of their roof. This is the type of the roof. They've already been told about how good of a company we are. And we've got a schedule meeting for them next Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And you need to go meet them at the building, right? That's a tool that is changing the world today for small business, saving them money. And it's a simple AI deployment.
Wow. I think between Rich and I, we know several businesses that have after hours call center, to your point, right? They want to be able to have somebody else answer that. And it is costly. And what a disrupting service, right? To be able to provide it and provide it at scale and have it be smart, have it book and have it do everything that you need it to do. And what I found with small business entrepreneurs, just to that example, Patrick, and I love the fact that you described that so well. A lot of entrepreneurs are saying, okay, AI, great. I hear about it. That's fantastic. But how is it going to save me money tomorrow? And you just gave us one really good example. What are futuristically maybe something that Workforce Wave doesn't have yet, but a couple of other examples of how entrepreneurs are going to be able to build their operational capacity to ultimately become more profitable using AI very soon?
Yeah, I think you're correct. There's a lot of opportunity to continue to disrupt the space, especially in the small business sector. And if we were to start with that kernel of a voice agent, which is where we believe the easiest disruption is today, we've seen a lot of them. And this is one that we just feel like we can home run on. Beyond that, it's a disruption of text messages coming into your business to request services, or emails coming into your business that now need to be routed. And so we're already working on tools that will be a front end agent for your email that looks at your past emails, understands the cadence and the way that you reply to messages and the messages that you do other things with. And that then AI will, at the very least, pre-write your emails for you, and they'll already be sitting there in your drafts folder. At the most, if you really trust in it after you've used it for a little bit and we've really given it some good training data, then it could literally take action on those emails. I was just describing a situation that I had one of our coders working on, and I was asking him, look, there's this one type of email that I get it about once a week, and people are asking for a referral to the Harbor Entrepreneur Center, which I am excited to talk about. And when they talk about the Harbor Entrepreneur Center, my email is almost always the same email. It is, I'm excited that you want to hear more about the Harbor Entrepreneur Center. I need to connect you with the executive director, Grady Johnson, because that's his full-time job, not mine. I need the two of you to have a meeting. I'm happy to jump in there if it makes sense. I'm always saying the same thing. So there's no reason that our AI can't learn that. And the next time somebody sends me an email about the Harbor Entrepreneur Center, pre-write that email, put Grady in the CC line, reply to the person, blind CC, whoever sent me the introduction, right? All these things are things we all know that we are doing every single day that we're pretty passionate. We can train an AI to pick up on them and do them instantly, just like these phone calls are being answered and then communicate back the right type of data.
Before I ask you about the Harvard Entrepreneur Center, I'm struggling with the voice agent part because every time I call an airline, for example, I don't talk to the voice agent. I say agent because I want to talk to a human. What is it that you're doing that is better than the experience we've all had with an airline that is a voice agent, that's AI, that helps with routing, that nobody wants to talk to?
I completely agree with you. I travel a lot and I'm on with those airlines and I have to make those phone calls sometimes. And a lot of times when we all do, we're calling because we're frustrated. And so I completely get it 100%. I'll go back though to this funeral home that we're working on because that's probably the toughest we've done so far. We've done real estate agents, we've done restaurants, we've done hotel front desks. We've learned a lot.
Yeah, you want to talk sensitive material, funeral home, right? Yeah, I'd love to hear. How did you crack that code to make it where somebody didn't feel offended to hear from a voice agent at a funeral home? Fascinating.
I completely agree. And I was worried about it myself, actually. I was questioning, can we pull this off? A funeral home? That's a tough one. And what our team set out to do was get the voice right in the sense that we can actually really control the sound of the voice. We can make it be more empathetic, more energy coming across. It can be more bubbly. We can really work with that voice. And now I want to be clear. I just want to put a little asterisk disclaimer here. I do not believe that I will have an AI agent that sounds like my voice. I don't think that's a great idea. I don't want to fool people into thinking that they're talking to me when they're talking to an AI. That's not my goal. Matter of fact, our opening line always for all our customers is to declare that this is an AI agent. And if you were to say, hey, is this an AI agent? That agent needs to reply, yes, I'm an AI agent, but I'm here to help you. If you ask to be transferred, it'll transfer you. But all that to say, we have a tool that we just started really working on that allows us to record another voice. Someone, you can get your grandma if you want, and you can have her record into this system, and she will now be a voice agent for us. And what I mean by that is, if you're a funeral home in Charleston, South Carolina, let's have a professional voice assistant cut your voice. And that voice person, that voiceover artist, will go into the software, read a script. They'll read it with a very compassionate tone and a very understanding tone. They won't be overly bubbly and smiley and cheery because most people aren't calling in a funeral home for that. And then we can work with that voice that now sounds like someone that lives in Charleston. We don't want to over characterize it, but we want it to feel correct for the region. And in doing all that, we can really begin to customize the actual voice. So that's step one. And then step two is the data, the knowledge sets that we feed this AI. And that's where the magic happens, because as a customer, you would give us your entire knowledge base. So we'll crawl your website, you'll give us PDFs, you'll give us everything you would train an employee that was answering the phone. You're going to give us those documents, and we're going to give them all to the AI, and that's going to be data set number one. And then data set number two is a script. And we teach our AI agents to follow this script. So maybe our goal with the funeral home is who died, where'd they die, when do you think the services are going to be? Some very questions that are important if we're going to provide you funeral home services. And in the end, we need all those questions answered. but you can take it off track. And this is the difference between what I believe we've built and a lot of bad ones that I've heard, which is our agent will say, I'm Alex, I'm a digital agent. How can I help you today? And you can say, I need to talk to you about this particular roof that I need replaced. And Alex is going to have all this information about roofs and the costs and the types and all the information of past projects we've done, and be able to say, oh, okay, you're in Charleston, South Carolina. Yes. Then we've done 4 other roofs nearby you. And so tell me more about the type of roof, and they can have a full conversation with you. But they're always going to steer you back to that script of the next right step is for us to set up a meeting at the location of the roof so that our roofer can see it and meet you in person, right? Or a real estate agent. The next right step is for the real estate agent to meet you and be able to show you some houses. So how is Saturday? And now you're using a third set of data, right? We got knowledge base, we got scripting, and then we got real-time integrations. So now the AI is using your calendar to say, I have an opening for Gary to come show you houses on Saturday. Are you available on Saturday? Yes. Okay, I just put an entry on Gary's calendar. I'm sending you an email to confirm that. They ask you your email address. Of course, they can reply back to that. And it is so fluid that as I've been demoing it to customers and we're using it for new businesses, people are overwhelmed by how good it is compared to a call center that they're going to dial up in some third world country that can't barely speak English, because these are professional voices that understand a lot of information about your business and have access to real-time data.
I get it. I'm sold. And I think you're dead on. The custom voice and the dynamic knowledge set, that it is not a static knowledge set with a flow chart. It's a dynamic knowledge set. And that custom voice is so important. Who wants to call in here? Hello, Patrick. I hope you're having a good day. Nobody wants to hear that, right? So to do something, especially with that regional sound, I think that's all great. Now, not to put you on the spot, but maybe I will. Is there a way that someone, because me, I go, theoretically, I love the direction you're going. I want to experience it. Is there a phone number that somebody could call, or is there something on a computer? How can I get a taste of this so I can see if I want to bring it into my business?
Yes, the answer is yes. Workforcewave.com. We've got a ton of information up on there, but you can sign up for a demo and we will email you a phone number. Now, I know we have a lot of small business owners on the line. The reason I'm not giving the number out right now on the internet is because if you call it, it will cost me money in compute time, right? Like literally it will be doing AI work and my server will have to cost something. So every minute somebody's on that demo, we're getting charged from our AWS server and Twilio numbers and all these kinds of things, a few cents. And so call it 20 cents. We prefer to at least know who's calling our number and why, and make sure that we're using that wisely. But yeah, of course, we would love to share it with anybody. The other thing is if you go to workforcewave.com, we've got your email address. We have different demos for different types of products. So of course, if you're a real estate agent or a restaurant, or now in this case, funeral home, which we just built last week, we can give you an example of either a customer or a demo that is live, real, happening, that you can really experience it. So yeah, I'd love to share that number with folks.
Thank you for that. Let's pivot over to the Harvard Entrepreneur Center. What is it? Why does it matter? Why was it created?
So the Harvard Entrepreneur Center is in Charleston, South Carolina, and it spun out of a moment that a few of us went and saw the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. And once we saw what they had created in Nashville, we came home and we thought, man, if we're going to move Charleston forward for entrepreneurship, this is the way to do it. And we started with a very minimum viable product ourselves. We all believe in that thought process. We said, what's the simplest thing we can do to get going and test customers, test if people want this in the community. And so we started an accelerator where I actually had a list of 41 what I call made entrepreneurs. So 41 entrepreneurs in Charleston that had started a business and made enough money they don't have to go to work tomorrow. They were made entrepreneurs. And I emailed them all and I said, we're starting an accelerator. We want to help startups that are at the infancy stage. We want to give them mentorship. Would you give of your time for X hours a month for the next 14 weeks? And I had 18 yeses via email, and I needed 24 mentors. So before I had even sent the email out a few days, we had this overwhelming support from our mentor level folks in Charleston to help support other startups. And that really gave me a lot of excitement, a lot of move forward. And so from there, we built this accelerator out. We selected 8 companies. We put them in it. We ran them through a curriculum and mentorship, and they ended up getting a round of investment. And we did a big pitch event. It's just a fantastic program. And now that program is 10 years old. And the Harbor Entrepreneur Center has a building of 40,000 square feet occupied by 60 businesses in Charleston. And they all pay rent and they live in this communal office space that has a large atrium for events and opportunities for sharing among those tenants, as well as the accelerator still going and the mentorship and an annual retreat that people get together once a year to help do their planning for the next year. So it's just got a lot of really robust opportunities to help entrepreneurship. I'm no longer the chairman. I stepped down after a few years, but I love it passionately and just believe in helping other entrepreneurs get going and have the resources they need, because I'm at this 27 years and I felt, I don't know about you guys, but in my early days, there wasn't an EO, there wasn't a Harbor Entrepreneur Center. There weren't people that I felt like were resources. And I just had to build my own mentor network and peer group of entrepreneurs and really scrap to find people to help me that understood my path, because bankers and lawyers, they're helpful advisors, but they don't understand our path the way that other entrepreneurs do. And so that was my passion, was just how do we get every entrepreneur in Charleston to know every other entrepreneur in Charleston? Because if we do that, it's impossible for us not to impact the community in a positive way.
Kudos for growing such an amazing community, 60 businesses. I certainly see the pride as you talk about it. And for Rich and I also have a passion of helping entrepreneurs grow. And it's really a mission we have for ourselves, is helping entrepreneurs. So when we hear that story, certainly aligned to it. But with all of your experiences, 27 years as an entrepreneur, starting these multiple businesses, building an accelerator for businesses to start, you've had a lot of touches with entrepreneurs. What do you think is one of the key criterias of success for an entrepreneur right now in 2025, looking forward? What are some of those components that entrepreneurs really need to nail down in order to be successful as they move forward?
I have started 8 companies. 6 of them have gone past the $1 million mark. I like to joke that I've started for-profit companies. I started a nonprofit helping companies. And sadly for me, I've run a lot of for-profit companies as not-for-profits. And I've got all the badges. I've seen all the things. And for me, the number one thing that an entrepreneur needs to do if they are really trying to take over a market and or grow into an existing market is live in the future. And what I mean by that is there are these things we can do in our lives to put ourselves in a position that we are in the future as compared to other people that are experiencing a similar reality. I think we all can agree that an entrepreneur like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, or keep naming, or Jensen at NVIDIA, these guys can see things 20 years down the horizon that I can't even see yet, right? They are living in the future because their teams are working on things that I can't even know exist, right? Bill Gates knew about ChatGPT within 3 weeks. And then it took a year and a half before he was able to talk about what he had seen that night, right? So there are these people that are literally living in the future and they see what's coming down the pipe. And then they're able to look left and right, quoting Alan Graham, that they literally look left and right and say, okay, if the future involves this thing, what is missing? And now I can get there faster and deploy that particular thing. So I'll just use a quick example in my life. Right now, I'm engrossed in AI and I am in a constant dialogue with ChatGPT on my phone. I've got it on voice. I'm talking to it about my keto diet. I'm talking to it about working out. I'm talking to it about things that I want to know about. This movie I just watched, tell me more about this actor. This line I just heard about how to tell stories. Tell me more about that. Give me examples. I'm constantly talking to ChatGPT. Additionally, I drive a Tesla and I'm letting my Tesla drive me as much as I believe is safe. Every single time I can click on the button to let it drive, I'm letting it drive and I'm learning what it doesn't do well, what it does do well, what's the new release, what's happening. I read up on what's coming next. So as it pertains to talking to ChatGPT and understanding prompts, or as it pertains to self-driving cars and EVs and charging stations, I'm living in the future. No, I'm not saying I'm particularly special. There's nothing special here that I've said. All I'm saying is to someone that doesn't own an EV and still owns an ICE car, and to someone who has never been behind the wheel of a car driving itself, I'm living in the future, right? So by definition, I understand my market better than other people, which allows me to make decisions in what to invest in, what I believe in, what technologies I want to push toward, what technologies I want to recommend to other people. This puts me in a place of being a value-added leader that is helping create real wealth growth for the people around me and myself because I'm living in the future. And so I just use that as a point to any person in entrepreneurship, which is whatever it is you're focused on, just dig in to become an expert on that thing so that you're living in the future far. You don't want to be too far in the future, right? I don't think right now you want to spend too much time looking at what life on Mars is going to look like. I don't have those kind of resources to think that far out, but I do want to know what's happening a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. And as it pertains to these voice agents, I'm saying to everyone that'll listen, look, 5 years from now, an AI will answer your phone. I guarantee it 100%. 5 years from now, a car is going to drive you around. I guarantee it 100%. So if I can see something out 5 years, then we've got a real capability to build a business into that moment that we're there at an early stage, but not too early. And we're living in the future. So that's my number one piece of advice.
Very inspiring. Live in the future. I think it's a fantastic way to cap this conversation up. Patrick, thank you very much for your time and wisdom today.
I love talking to you guys. Thank you so much. Thrilled to be with you.
Stay tuned as John and Rich unpack today's conversation.
John, did it resonate with you when he talked about the build your own mentor network era?
Sure did.
Like that was what we had to do. We had to get lucky to have a really good mentor enter our orbit and then identify them, hope they identified us, hope they'd invest with us in terms of time and get to know us and get to know our path. And you and I, as I reflect on our past, we have been so fortunate to have done a good job, but also been a little lucky, more than a little, on building our own mentorship network. And he's so right. It was an absence of all of these other peer-to-peer organizations that have popped up since we had to do that 25 years ago.
Yeah, and you hear now, and I fully believe it now, but I'm not so sure that it's fully ingrained in our society, which is in your first couple of jobs, if you had to pick between a big paying salary or the right mentor, 9 out of 10 people will pick the big salary for a lot of reasons. They got student debt, they have to afford their living, there's other things going on, but it's the absolute wrong decision.
Agreed.
And if you can pick the right mentors in your first couple of career experiences, it can propel you to incredible heights. And I love the fact that Patrick here has created this Harbor Entrepreneurial Center. There's 60 businesses now. Think about that. If we started an accelerator program together, Rich, we could look back and go, yeah, there's 60 businesses that are in that building right now getting mentored and developed. Wow, what an impact that is.
Yeah, amazing. And he went down, he said, to Nashville. I didn't know there was a Nashville Entrepreneur Center. It seems like something we should see if we could find a guest we could bring on from there as well.
Yeah.
This idea, we can't have this outro, if you will, without talking about living in the future. That was so powerful.
Yeah.
And where he ended, I loved, which was, if I could see 5 years out in the future, I could build a business into it and serve people and make money and do it well. And the value of living into the future. I don't think we've had any podcast guests yet nail that concept in the way that he did.
Yeah. I think a part of it, though, as I mentioned, Rich, is you're so busy running your business. You're so busy chopping the trees and doing the work. When do you have time to sharpen the saw? We thankfully have the Entrepreneurs United Empowerment Experience. We have 50 entrepreneurs shooting to Charleston to come learn from each other and sharpen the saw, but we don't do enough of it. We don't do enough reading. We don't do enough listening to futuristic videos or doing market research ourselves to figure out what's going on, because we have to hit this month's budget. We have to hit this month's revenue, this month's profitability. And that's hard enough as it is to think about the future. And so you have to be intentional. You really have to be intentional about your own R&D of where this is going. It can't just be, I'm going to continue what I did the last 10 years. I'm just going to do it for the next 10, right? That's not living in the future. So it's easier said than done, I believe. But if you can spend some time there intentionally, put it in your calendar for market and research and R&D, or have your team participated in it as well, you really will start discovering things and maybe seeing things you never thought you'd see.
I think he dropped 2 hot tips on how he does it.
Yeah.
He has a self-driving car. Like, where he has technology available, he tries to max it out and integrate it in his life. He didn't say those words, but that's basically what I heard.
Yep.
So he has a self-driving car. He uses self-driving part as often as he can. Everybody has ChatGPT available to them now that can be used professionally, can be used personally. He's talking to ChatGPT about an actor on a screen.
Yep.
I can't say I use it that regularly. He says, I'm constantly talking to it.
Yeah.
So his take on how you can live into the future, he had 2 hot tips on how to be able to do that. And it doesn't take a whole bunch of extra time. As a matter of fact, it might reduce the time investment.
Yeah, if it can be efficient for you. I think there's other things too, like how many companies have focus groups within their company that the whole purpose of that focus group is to live in the future of their business. So not necessarily just talking to ChatGPT or having an EV vehicle or whatever, but how many people are intentionally thinking in their business, how is our business going to operate 5 years from now? In our industry, how are things going to change? And how can we prepare for that? And how can we be ahead of the curve in the changes that are going to happen in our industry? That could be a different form of market research. Sure, you could use AI tools and other things to get there, but how many people just spend that R&D time within their own businesses to have those conversations? I think it's a really interesting takeaway for us.